Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Cycle Jerks Podcast. I'm Mike Stewart. And alongside, as always, is my co-host Dave Dalton. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. I'm good. Really good this morning. But we're back in the morning.
Yeah,
We're not doing the afternoon thing.
yeah. Sometimes you got to switch it up just to
I
accommodate our
know. I
guests.
know. I had actually had to set an alarm this morning. That's good. So
Yeah,
I'm up and about.
right on. Hey, today's a good one for us. We've got one of my former colleagues and all-around good guy, the now national sales manager at Pinarello Bicycles, Doug Hall. Welcome to the podcast. How are you, Doug?
Hey, good. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me. Dave,
Yeah,
good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, good to see you again. Long
yeah.
time.
So Doug and I, we worked together a really long time ago. We were colleagues, and then for a short time, he was my boss, and then since then, I've kind of lost track. I knew you were doing some independent repping, and then you owned a bike shop, and now here you are, national sales manager at Pinarello Bicycles. You've been bouncing around quite a bit.
How come he seems to have progressed? Hey, how come he seems to
Yeah.
have progressed and you're stuck in the same job for
I
22 years, Mike?
See, I like to couch it as bouncing around a little bit. Makes me feel a little bit better. Yeah. National sales
Mike's
manager, one of the
Mike's very
greatest brands.
stable.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike's very stable. There you go. Uh,
Sedentary.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Were
Well,
you
it's
guys
just,
together at Giant?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
So yeah, I started before Mike, then I left Giant, and then I came back to Giant and we started working together. So in that meantime, a bunch of ex GT guys had joined uh, Giant. So it was pretty fun. So it was like you and DMAC, and I'm trying to think who else were the guys that joined at that time. But yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I did two stints at Giant. So it was a great company, still is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, it's funny because Doug and I remember when we were colleagues, I remember complaining to him about the or the regional sales manager. Not them personally, but just the fact that they would come travel with us, and I called it the handshake tour, and I didn't feel like it was terribly productive. And then Doug comes back as the regional manager, and he's like, "Hey, I want to travel with you." I'm like, "Oh, great, the handshake
There
tour,
we
huh?"
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully he doesn't
uh,
remember that conversation.
yeah, but
I
no,
totally
he.
remember that conversation. And the funniest part was like I was gonna travel with Stu. I hadn't done that yet. And he's like, yeah, we really don't need to do this. He's like, just didn't even want to bother. So we went and visited, some of the favorites, right? And then
Yeah,
I don't think I ever traveled with you again,
yeah.
because you got it done. You're a self motivated guy, so didn't have to happen.
Yeah, but and I do feel like yeah, I think you kind of straightened me out on that a little bit because it was like, well, the best scenario is if you have a manager that has good relationships with accounts, and that's how you do it, is right by traveling. Um but yeah, so yeah, we made a good use of our time.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, so all right, so
From
we
a
usually
from a dealer perspective, it's I mean,
yeah,
it's time, right? And what am honestly, yeah, it's just time. And I don't a lot of times I didn't have time when the reps came in. It's not that I didn't like anybody. I like you or one of my closest friends. I like Skippy. I liked everyone, but it's like I got customers here, right? So it's a tough thing. It's
yeah.
it's you know, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have accounts now that have relationships with my regional, and I know they value those relationships, and I think it's important. Sometimes, instead of just dealing with me, with the three of us will get on a call or whatever, there's definitely a
Yeah,
role there for sure. And but so we usually like to start though with how where did you grow up, Doug?
I am a Washington State native. I grew up in Eastern Washington. Uh, Graduated from high school in Spokane, Washington. Went to college at Gonzaga. Worked in a bike shop starting in college, and I was already pretty thick into bikes by that point. So that was
Yeah.
a great little stepping off point start to this little thing called the bike industry.
Yeah. When did it start with the bicycle with you?
Uh, I've been thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask this question because I've
Mm-hmm.
seen many of your episodes or
Uh-huh.
listened to, excuse me. I think sixth grade. Well, I mean, the family, we always had the junky, knockoff Schwinn Stingray type bikes, and um, I think I learned to ride when I was 7 on a pink bike with training wheels, and has to start somewhere, right?
Yep.
Now that's stylish. Anyway, yeah, so I think sixth grade, I had to do some book report. I found a book on bike touring in the library, and I really got into it. And then I I remember getting like bicycling magazine back in the day, getting a couple copies of that, and then I saw like ads for different bike shops with the mail order and stuff. So I got on some mail order lists and became a bike junkie at that point. And I think
Yeah.
in sixth and seventh grade, I did the diabetes bikeathons. I guess it started in seventh grade because I didn't get a bike until I was in seventh grade to get a road bike, and
Mm-hmm.
so I did like 62 miles on a knockoff Huffy. It wasn't even the real Huffy. It was a Coast King by Coast to Coast department stores made by Huffy. So
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I did a couple of bikeathons. Totally got hooked on that, and then I didn't really get my first nice bike until I think I was 16, working with my dad building cabins, and I had saved up my money from the summer and bought a Motivacon, my first real road bike.
How much
Yeah.
did that cost you?
I believe it was $435 thereabouts.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
About what a nice set
Wow.
of
Yeah,
cranks cost nowadays.
Yeah.
exactly.
Actually, about half of what a nice set of cranks
Not with
cost
power
nowadays.
meters.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. My first, the reason I asked, my first 10 speeds was $110. And my dad was just shaking his head, right? Like, what? And then the thing got stolen. I think we left our garage
Oh,
door open and someone took it out. And then I went and bought CCM, and it was $169. And my dad was just like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Right. And then my brother went and bought a Fuji and it was $189. And my dad's like, just like, his mind was going to explode. Like, but it's got 10 speeds, Dad. And he's like, well, why do you need 10? What's wrong with just stop and go? Like,
yeah.
So,
Well, yeah,
anyways, I digress,
I
but
took a lot of crap when I got my first road bike was the first one that I owned was a Schwinn Tempo, and it had that Shimano Sante. It was all white, had like white parts on
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
that was a pretty component group. I remember that on Bianchi, or sorry, Bridgestones. They had some white Bridgestones with that group on it. Those were like super cool looking
Yeah,
bikes.
it was cool, but I caught so much crap because I was a BMX dude. And then all of a sudden I bought this bike and all my friends were just like,
gone to,
what are you doing? This is
gone to the dark
ridiculous.
side. He's
Yeah.
gone to the dark side.
Yeah. But I did have like
They're holding an intervention.
my dad had a Schwinn Continental when I was a kid, but it was huge. And I flipped the handlebars upside down. I used to launch it off the nutcracker. It wasn't a great idea, but I did it anyway. But yeah, that was probably my first road bike because my dad basically gave it to me, but it was just so damn big. I couldn't do anything on it.
He
So
probably gave it to you because you trashed it.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So
As a parent,
okay.
I know how that goes. So,
Yeah. All right. So you're graduate Gonzaga, and now what brings you to California?
so
Where are
I
you right now, Doug?
I live in a little town called Morgan Hill in Northern
Oh,
California here.
heard
So
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, heard
Yeah.
of it.
yeah, yeah. So I left Giant in September 2001. or August, whatever, and met my now wife on September 22nd, 2001 at a friend's party. I always tell the story, like my buddy was one of my high school friends, housemates, and when I lived in Seattle, he bought a house right on Puget Sound, and he and his neighbors threw this awesome outdoor movie party. It was a Coen Brothers Film Festival, and anyway, so he imported chicks from California. So some of his coworkers from California flew up for this party, and the first person I met walking in this party was my now wife Jody, and she was into bikes, and that's how we started talking and stuff. And a year later, like, we had this conversation. Okay, one of us has got to move, and like 4 days later, our old boss at Giant calls me and says, "Hey, how's things going with you and your girlfriend? I got an opening in NorCal." So I took over Northern California territory for Giant, and started repping in the northern half of Northern California. Mike had the other half. So
yeah,
that's what brought me to California. So
nice,
and it's worked out. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
You didn't go to Gonzaga saying, I want to be in the bike business, right?
No, I got a political science degree, which totally makes me qualified to sell insurance or work in a bike shop. So,
well, yeah, I'm glad you're not involved with politics. Good Lord.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Bikes are way funner. Okay, so let's see. So I'm trying to get to this place where we start talking about what it's like to be the national sales manager, one of the most iconic brands in the history of cycling. So, but there should be like a natural progression to there, right? So there's Giant, and then you went independent rep after Giant?
No, then I left Giant to be national sales manager at Fox Racing, the head, not the tail.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I
so I did
forgot
that
about that.
yeah, that's what brought me to the South Bay. So yeah, we moved to San Jose, is working in Morgan Hill when Fox was located here. Did that for about 4 years, and then I got an offer. I got recruited to go work for Timbuk2 Bags. So I was the national sales manager for them up in San Francisco. So then I did took the bike on the train for a while, and got kind of burnt out on the whole commute thing. The job was pretty stressful, just like going in so many different directions, because that brand sold into so many different channels, and it was kind of pulling teeth to get a sales team that could do that.
Right.
And then I left that to start my own rep agency. So I did that starting mid 2013. I started a rep agency. I did felt bicycles. I did Segoy clothing for a while. I did Louis Garneau for a while. I did when felt changed hands, etc. I ended up working. I did Jameis. I actually repped Fox Racing again. I did Defeat. Did Osprey Packs. Did a bunch of different brands in like a 5-year period. And at the same time, like, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's a tough racket, the indie rep racket. It's very challenging, and yeah, I did it for a couple of years, and yeah, and you see, I settled into a company job. I appreciate the stability of a company job versus
yeah. The independent rep thing is good when it's good. It's bad when it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the stability, that's the way the bike industry changes, ebbs and flows with management changes or regime changes, whatever you want to call it, just to really decides whether you still have a job or not. In a lot of ways, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But so toward 2016 or so, we started a conversation with some friends about potentially opening a bike shop, and we looked at a couple stores for sale, and then turned out that we were probably more interested in opening a bike shop than they were. And so the next thing I know, I found out there's some wide open markets, and started a conversation, opened a bike shop in Morgan Hill. So we had bike therapy here. starting in 2017, and pretty crazy good timing for opening a bike shop. The other shop in town actually closed at that time, right before, like right as we signed our lease, I think, before we'd even built our building. And so we were the only bike shop in town for the whole time we were open. And it's still open. We ended up selling it to Specialized in 2022. But yeah, so we got to ride the whole COVID wave, owning a bike shop in pretty iconic bike town, and very good thing. I mean, obviously, I was one of the lucky guys during COVID where I had a good flow of product, etc. And we did really well. Had a great team, had all the pieces in place pre-COVID, so you got to take advantage of all that. So no complaints there.
Yeah.
You gotta, it is, I mean, I'm sure part of it is being good and part of it is being lucky. I'm just shaking my head that there wasn't a Specialized shop in Morgan Hill prior to that. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, there had been, and it came and went. But it was pretty crazy that there's a wide open market. But I kind of consider myself a bit of a student of history, and I looked at what had come and gone over the years. I think we're the third rendition of a Specialized bike shop in Morgan Hill.
okay.
But I looked at, what other people had done right, what they'd done wrong. That's one of the advantages of being in the industry so long and being in literally hundreds, if not 1,000 bike shops over the years, just seeing what people did and didn't do. And no question that had a big impact on our success.
Yeah.
But we found a downtown location. It was right in front of a tap room that had like 86 beers on tap. So we had built-in foot traffic. It was probably the biggest hotspot in Morgan Hill. Had a big roll-up garage door into a courtyard area. So we inherited a pre-existing Tuesday night road ride. So we had some, like, right from the get-go, we had a kind of built-in customer clientele, etc.
Yeah.
We also got lucky with like putting good systems in place. We in 2019 or 2018 we started with smart detailing, so we had our website up and going. We started using like the Iconic texting, so we could talk to customers, and like during COVID that was like so invaluable. So our online business went crazy during COVID, as well as the lineup of people out the door, and we had good flow of products. So super lucky.
It's interesting, what you said there about visiting so many bike shops and hundreds, if not thousands. And, I always feel like you'll have a conversation with a retailer and they're really stuck in a particular way. And it's just like, I often say, man, I wish I could just put you in my car and you could go spend the next 3 days with me, because, you just need to see it. You're kind of really just narrowed in on this thing where, you just got to broaden your perspective a little bit, and that's one of the things about being outside, an outside rep, is you see so many different ways to do it. And, I think the best scenario would be just to pluck a little bit. Oh, I take this, I take that, and then you could make your own, and it would be very diverse, and it would attack as many of the markets as you possibly could, in a meaningful way. So yeah, it was cool to hear that you had started your own shop, and I've often thought about it because before I was a rep, I wanted to own my own shop, and I was working for somebody that was going to sell me the shop, and he just kept kicking the can down the road. I finally got tired of waiting, and I just like, I'm just going to go, I was get on the road for a while. But I do feel like, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so same thing. I've worked in a bike shop through college, and a year into it, I was sales manager, doing all the buying, etc. I actually stopped going to college for about 2.5 years because I was having too much fun working, and finally said, okay, I got to get this done. But no, I same thing. It's like, oh, I think I can own my own shop. You know, it's 20 early 20s, like, oh, I could totally do this. And then I got a job with Giant as a sales rep, and I started visiting shops. And you know, the guy I worked for in Spokane, great guy in owning a business as far as managing it. Part of it was maybe dumb luck, but he also had parents that kind of grounded him about not spending too much money, etc. So he owned his inventory outright, paid cash for everything,
Wow.
was a big closeout king. So he made some pretty big buys on clearance mountain bikes back in the day, and made good margin, all that stuff. Anyway, when I started repping, I started going into all these other bike shops, and these guys were like struggling, like how many of these guys were past due on their bills, etc. And it's like, okay, maybe I can't open a bike shop right now. Maybe I need to learn more, you know. So that was good. It was a good awakening, seeing the other side, and then seeing some of the other, you know, iconic bike shops and how well they did. Learning from them too is definitely key.
Yeah.
Why did you sell?
Good question. It was timing. Timing's really the number one reason. So we had no intention that we'd be 5 years in selling our store. Basically, we saw, you know, we saw that we were riding that boom. We had this big wave, you know, we're making money, etc. But also, like, we had this back order file that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like, okay, this is not realistic that we're going to be taking all this stuff. And if there ever comes a day when we have to actually take delivery of everything they have on back order for us, and we were cutting back on all what we had on back order, etc. So we kind of saw a little bit of the writing on the wall that this wave's not going to last forever. But at the same time, our kids were, you know, at that time 14 and 12, and it's like, man, we were trying to at some point get away for a, you know, European vacation. It's like, if we sell the bike shop, we can go on vacation. So yeah, so we had the sale in the works. You know, I think we closed the deal on June 17th in 2022, and I think we had tickets to France on June 29th. So we went and spent a month in Europe right away. And it's like, I mean, I'm not going to regret that decision at all, selling the store and taking the time with the family. So, you know, we got to take, I took 16 months off, not working. So that was pretty awesome. You know, we did 2 European trips, went to Australia, did many road trips with the family during the summer breaks, etc. As Mike knows, my 16-year-old son now is super into racing. They're up in Montana racing right now, and so it was a great time to spend with them. You know, I also hold like 3 different volunteer roles. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I started a NICA team when we opened the shop. So I'm team director for that. I work on the Morgan Hill tourism board, and I'm also like work the VTA representative for Morgan Hill for the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So do a lot of those little roles. So that took up a lot of the free time when I was not working. So, and I got to ride my bike a lot more than I do now. So
yeah.
the whole job thing. Yeah.
I know, right? Dave, I don't know if you heard us, but before you came on, Dave and I were talking. He goes, you know, full-time or part-time. I don't know. I said, who wants a full-time job? Geez, you could get away with part-time. Yeah.
Well, but you know, it's interesting, and this is nothing to do with the bike industry per se, but I'm listening to what you say, Doug, and like, you know, I'm struggling, you know, post shop, trying to actually find a career and whatnot. But, you know, we do the podcast. I'd like to say we're making money doing this, but this is a labor of love. You know, I'm involved in a club, a cycling club, and we do a lot of nonprofit work. We try to raise money. I still do shop rides or group rides that I organize, and it's just as, and then then other bike rides that I do to raise money aside from the club, and it's a full-time job, you know, trying to be, if you will, know, and I don't want to be selfish about it, but trying to be a good guy is a lot of work,
Yeah.
and trying to help out. So, it just I get sometimes I get stressed over it, and like I don't know. So yeah,
Yeah.
but so I commend you for your volunteer work. I know what it takes.
All right. What
Yeah.
is
It's a struggle.
the
Go ahead.
Morgan Hill Tourism? What was that? Morgan Hill
So,
Tourism Board?
yeah. So it's Visit Morgan Hill. It's like a lot of communities have this, and it's trying to draw tourists to the community. Um, so basically it taxes hotel stays, and that those funds go towards marketing the area as a tourism destination.
Got it.
So, in Morgan Hill, there's kind of three main draws, uh, which is the, the outdoor spaces, et cetera. We have a lot of wineries, et cetera, here that we have tourism's come to. This is the, Santa Clara Valley wine tour area. We have all the farm to table type aspects. There's a bunch of orchards, et cetera, around here, which is actually a pretty big destination as well. And then the sports side, we have how many county parks and Henrico State Park right on the edge of our town. So we have so many opportunities for people to get outside and explore the Coyote Creek Trail, open spaces, et cetera. So cycling is actually one of the big draws here too.
Sure.
We have super active outdoor sports centers that, always having tournaments, et cetera. So all that stuff's a draw. I'm just trying to market that to more people.
Right. Right. And there is a big bicycle brand there too.
Heard
I'm
of
not
it, yeah.
sure. Yeah, not sure if you're aware, but
I live one stoplight away from that big brand. So
oh boy, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, okay, so I think we've covered it up to the point now where you're national sales manager of Pinarello. What
Yeah, you see me, I'm pinching myself. I still can't believe it's real. So
seriously, right? I mean, you think about all the legends that have raced their bikes on the biggest stage, and won. I mean, it's an amazing brand. So how did that come to be?
that it's an amazing brand, or how I came
No,
to work there.
yeah, it was a terrible question. Yeah, how did it come to be that you're national sales manager of this iconic brand? How did that happen?
Uh, Again, right place at the right time. Actually had another NorCal rep who's not the current rep say, "Hey, I hear Pinarello's hiring." He knew I was like in the hunt looking for something to do,
Hmm.
and so I was like, and back it up even a little bit further, just to kind of preface how great the timing was too. So I don't know if any of you guys watched the mountain bike world championships for this last year,
Hmm.
but we're sitting, literally the family sitting in the TV room watching the recording of the world championships, and seeing Tom Pidcock come from 55th place and take it, and Pauline Prevost, totally smoke it. It was just huge, right?
Yeah.
So my kid's like, "Oh, that's the coolest bike ever," and it's like, well, they don't do mountain bikes yet, and then they launch this bike, etc. So he's all excited about the bike anyway. And then literally like 3 weeks later, I found out that Pinarello is hiring. So I got the email contact for who I need to reach out to from another rep friend, and takes me to what's Labor Day weekend last year. And so Saturday, Labor Day weekend, I'm sitting in Tahoe. I send off my resume. Sunday, I get an email back saying, "Hey, do you want to talk on Tuesday?" And like so I had a first conversation Tuesday, another interview on Thursday, and then the next week I had to like do a full on presentation. They made me do like a launch presentation, how I'd launch a new product line, etc. And then like the 4 days later, I had the job. So it was
Wow.
pretty cool. And again, I'm kind of pinching myself that this really came to be, because it is such an amazing brand. And the more I work there, the more I realize how incredible of a brand it is. I'm only 8 months in now,
Yeah.
but we just had a sales meeting this last week, and just listening to the dealers and then their attachment to the brand and stuff. It's so cool.
All right.
You know,
So I'm glad you said sales meeting because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so national sales meeting, you're probably there for, I mean, I hope you're in Italy, I would hope.
this was the U.S. sales meeting, so
Don't
it was on the East Coast. So yeah,
don't ruin it for me. Okay.
okay.
So you're in Italy, you guys, have you know, an important meeting, I guess, for a couple of days, and then it's like 5 days in the Alps, riding all the famous climbs on these amazing machines that you guys make, and then having uh, just amazing meals. That's not what happens.
Mike's really
Oh,
into this bike porn thing. This is
okay. I, I'll put it in reality for you. So it's partly true, Mike. 5
Okay.
days, I wish that was the case, but
Yeah.
so so when I got hired, my start date was like October 2nd. Well, the 2 weeks before that, a bunch of retailers and the reps flew to Italy, they call it the experience because they're
Mm.
launching the Dogma X. And there's about 450 people rode from headquarters in Treviso, Italy, which is like 40 minutes north of Venice, right?
Hmm.
And they get to ride into the foothills of the Dolomites, not the Alps. So you're
Okay.
pretty close there. But it's
Yeah.
basically the wine region where prosecco, the Italian bubbly wine comes from.
Yep.
And yeah, they get to go do this ride up into the foothills and stop at wineries, have meals. They have like it's all catered. They have music, etc. So yeah, I missed that by like a week
Damn
high
it.
starting. So yeah, but I am going in just yeah, let's do it. Yeah, a month from today, and gonna do that ride again. So
Well,
um,
okay. So there is kind of like my fantasy, but also there is a little bit of poetic justice because your career has been this timing thing has been amazing in your career, right? From,
oh, absolutely, yeah,
and so you timed the
it,
COVID bubble perfectly, and then, you know, so you missed out on the first one, but you're good. I think
yeah.
many more to come in the future, and yeah.
yeah, for sure. So I'm pretty excited. This one's a little smaller than last year's, but it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, so the company this is my third trip to Italy in 8 months, so or 9 months. So yeah,
Awesome.
it's pretty
Thank
awesome. Yeah,
God for frequent flyer miles, huh?
you
So
go. I've racked up a few this year. I think this spring doing my as you called it the handshake tour, Mike. We called it the listening tour. The listening
Yeah.
tour, visiting shops and dealers and meeting the reps I hadn't met before. So I think I did 9 weeks straight where I did a trip every week. Some were week long, others were, 3 days type thing. So yeah, so
Got
I've
it.
been doing the rounds, meeting everybody. So yes, Dave, racking up those frequent flyer points.
yeah, tell me about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
I have two questions. The first is, well, I mean, you've been in the industry, but was there any apprehension? I mean, let's face it, you were lucky that you rode the wave of COVID and I tell the story. I was working in a bike shop and somebody was like, okay, I'll buy these bikes, and I said, I appreciate that, but these bikes aren't really based on what you've described. And they said, I don't care. We need four bikes. Yeah, we leave for Tahoe tomorrow. Just here's the money, right? So there definitely, but there was, and Michael has shared this clearly, and some other stores suffered afterwards. There was a bit of a downturn. Was there any apprehension about taking on a brand like that? Or, I mean, is your timing still good? Were things coming out of it, or did Pinarello continue to sell even post-COVID? I mean, there, someone could have given me a bike shop right after COVID, and I'm not sure I would have taken it, right? So
yeah, and the as far as Pinarello as a brand globally, we're still growing. So, um, give a little history too. So I want to say it was 2016, 2017. Fausto Pinarello, the eldest son of the founder, um, he basically bought out his siblings from because they had ownership as well, and he basically bought them out. But he had to bring in a partner to do that, so he actually sold majority interest of the company to L. Catterton, which is an investment group wholly owned by the Louis Vuitton Hennessy conglomerate, right? So they're one of the biggest retail conglomerates in the world. So anyway, this investment group bought them, and then last year in June, they sold their share to a private person, guy named Ivan Glasserman, and anyway, so that's now owned by Fausto and Ivan own the company outright. So they since the El Catterton transaction, Pinarello US became a wholly owned subsidiary of Italy. Prior to that, they were sold through a distributor. So all the investments in the company, et cetera, have just really helped the trajectory, and the company's been growing and growing and growing. So post-COVID, Pinarello has still done well in the US. It's flattened out a little bit this past year. So it's been, my work's cut out for me as a sales manager, no question. But the company's healthy, still very profitable, and trajectory is good. There's also a little bit of the cycle of new models being launched, et cetera. So we're on the third year of our pinnacle product, the Dogma F. So you can kind of guess what's coming up here pretty soon, a new one.
Right.
So anyway, there's a little bit of that cycle that happens, but no, it's amazing to be one in a great company, but two, to be at a point too where you're a company that is healthy and can be is profitable and is making the investments it is. My job, like prior to me taking this role as national sales manager, there wasn't a national sales manager. So that was my job. Literally came out of the investment of the new ownership. So
now this is interesting. I want to go down. Then this leads me to my second question, and if it's off limits, just say the word. But you had a national sales meeting, U.S., not as glamorous as Mike likes to think that it would be, but
it's on the East Coast.
It's on the East Coast, which is thunder and rain. And is there? Are you selling through? Are there reps, or do you have employees, or are they in indie reps?
Yeah, we're 100% independent reps in the US for the outside sales. We have an inside sales team, support team. We have our headquarters for US is in Solana Beach, north of San Diego. And then our warehouse is in Charlotte, North Carolina. So yeah, and I think there's 15 people in the company in the US now, actual employees. And yeah, and we have, I think, 27 outside reps covering the area, covering the US.
Okay. It may be off limit. Do you feel like you're treated as an equal to, say, Europe?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're US market's pretty strong for Pinarello. And like, we just had our sales meeting. Fausto came over for the meeting along with the head of sales from Europe, the head of marketing. So, I have to say, like, working with the Italians has been nothing but amazing. The graciousness of these people is unbelievable. And it, like, I've been in the bike industry now for quite a few years, and it's so refreshing to just the acceptance, I went over in October. I met Fausto and the team, etc. I went back in March for another meeting, and I walk in the office, and I'm walking in a hallway, and I see Fausto, and he's like, "Oh, Doug, good to see you." And I don't even know if he knew I was coming. And the fact he remembered my name and stuff is just amazing, right? It's like for a guy like that. This is a brand that's won 30 Grand Tours, 15 Tours de France.
Yeah.
and a guy named Pinarello knows my name. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
I
imagine. I mean, just walking in and meeting him for the first time, it's probably just, it's very humbling, right? I mean, this
Yeah,
is, yeah.
yeah. They're so gracious though. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And, it kind of goes with my whole impression of Italy. Like, so I went on this cycling tour with Bo, and we went and we did the French, the Italian, and the Swiss Alps. And the Italy was just like the people of Italy. It's just, they're so different than the Swiss and the French. And just the culture like I was trying to explain it to my buddy the other day. It's like I feel like you have to be on when you're having a conversation from Italy, with somebody from Italy, because they're so fun and they're just, it's like you just have to be on your toes because you don't know. They throw little barbs here and there, but it's all in good nature and fun. But it was just, I don't know. Yeah, I love Italy. Italians, I love the Italians. It's
Oh
a great
man.
place, and the people are amazing. And it's cool to hear that you're working for this company, and you're talking about how gracious the ownership is. Because yeah, that was kind of my feeling having traveled there.
and so
Yeah, I
Doug,
mean,
just I'm sorry to cut you off, but just so that you don't think I was trying to dig up dirt or be an asshole, right? There's another, maybe you know about it, but there is another brand, an Italian brand that's rather iconic. And I sold that particular brand, but it was difficult because you always got the sense that the US was a stepchild, right? It was hard to get like, okay, I want this, I see this frame and I'm having a friend going through it right now who's trying to buy one of those. There's the bike. It's on the website. It's like, this is great. I want this. Yeah, but we don't sell that in the US. But whoa, wait, or yeah, sell it in the US, but we're only going to get X number of them. And so, so it was a very difficult brand, good people, quality bikes, but it was just difficult to deal with, right? And so it is refreshing that you are to hear that you're treated as equal, and so uh,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm letting the dogs bark.
Oh
Put you
yeah.
on mute there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, Dave, and like, it's not like everything's perfect with Pinarello in the US. So getting small parts sometimes does take a while. Like we get people who's like need a new fork, but it's like if we have to paint a fork, it's not something that's going to happen, right away, right? There's other priorities,
yeah,
etc. So yeah, that happens. There's some
there's
bikes
problems
that
with everyone, right? There's problems
yeah,
with all
yeah,
companies.
yeah. And it's like, we put, time trial bikes and cyclocross frames, etc., on our website. But a lot of those are, not readily available, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we the fact that we do stock a lot of the stuff in the US and there's availability, that's great. We have a decent B2B, so dealers can find the products, etc., and get it. Um, there's a we're still like I think in a lot of growing pains. I mean, realistically, since we're now the US, a subsidiary, et cetera, and our own company, we're only what 7 years into this,
Hmm.
6 years, and I think just only been a year or so that we've had a B2B, and now we're looking at version 2.0 for this next year, et cetera, and trying to improve on things and getting warehouse management software and all these other things that are important to a brand.
I think
Yeah.
that's a sign that Italy's behind you, right? They're giving you those investments in the power and the ability to
Uh,
run with it, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah. And the people, we're trying to get enough people to take care of the customers best we can. So
Yeah. Well, that and what Dave described, I mean, that's true of almost all major brands, right? Sometimes the coolest, hippest thing is just not available. And even with a big brand like Giant, sometimes we can't get stuff. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
So in terms of the US market for Pinarello, where is it largest? Do you have like a particular zone where the brand is just overachieving compared to other zones? I'm sure as you look at all of them, they're all somewhat similar, I would think, but is there an area where it's really strong?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Danville.
Danville.
Danville. I think I'm the only one that doesn't own one.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry, I'm joking.
we've had the same rep selling Pinarello in Florida for 35 years. So
Wow.
that definitely is our best market. So and that's just one, it's obviously there's some money in the Miami market, etc. So Florida is very big for us. California, definitely strong. New York, those are probably the three biggest markets. But we're seeing a lot of growth in a lot of places. Think of the coasts, right? Midwest, it's not as strong. Just there's not as much dollars there, and obviously limited season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the coasts are definitely our biggest markets.
Yeah.
Same thing for you guys, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
It's interesting. 35 years, and he's been an independent rep representing Pinarello for 35 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
We call him the Godfather. So
rightfully so. That's impressive. Yeah. Man. Yeah, that's super cool. All right. So
What do you see? What are some of the trends that you see in the, I mean, so I know there's some launches coming up, but like, what are the hot bikes and the hot trends that you're seeing for,
so again, traveling a fair bit. I just did a Northwest tour. I drove my family, three of us of the four that ride. We just did a 24-hour race up in Spokane over Memorial Day weekend. So I drove up, took the bikes up there, and then my wife and son flew up and did the race. And my wife flew home to be with my daughter, and my son and I did a road trip through like Idaho and Nevada on the way back, visiting bike shops, etc. So it was a work/fun trip. So it's good to see a different perspective too, getting into some of these smaller shops and some of these smaller markets, etc. But no question, gravel is still, I think, one of the bigger growth opportunities for brands. And we've had a lot of growth there. E-bikes, we do nitro road bikes and gravel bikes, and those have been one of our biggest growth segments for sure. And on the road side, it's still our biggest market, no question, and will be with the Dogma series. There's now there's the Dogma F, the race bike, and then there's the Dogma X we launched last year. It was the first time we did like a premium top of the line endurance geometry bike. And it's actually a little different geometry than the rest of our X series endurance bikes, where it's a little racier, still not as tall stack and short reach as the regular X series. So we call it performance endurance, if you want to get into the weeds a little bit.
Sure.
But so that's been a good little growth segment for us too. So and it's funny, with Pinarello as a premium brand, there's so many guys who buy the race bike, the F versus the X. And we were at Sea Otter, and we're showing off both bikes, etc. A lot of these guys, as we age, probably a lot of them, especially newer riders, really should be getting into that X series, but they all want the race bike.
Yeah.
And it's a bit ego fed, no question. But the race bike's racier, right? So they go for that. So,
it's all those damn Grand Tour victories.
No.
That's what it is. Yeah, just stop winning. Yeah, they can start selling to the more recreational rider.
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Garrett, we want you to hold back on this one. Don't, we don't want you on the
Yeah,
podium. We need to
there you go.
boost sales of our endurance bike.
Yeah.
No, hey, look, but I guess, at 63, and I'm in this very aggressive road bike. I do wonder, how long can I keep doing this? Stiff frame, aggressive aero geometry, and I've got no issues now, but how long do I want to keep putting myself through that? So,
But how fun is that though, too, right?
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and I could see, I mean, Geraint Thomas, I mean, you could see where he could be a great post world tour career. It sounds like if you listen to him, it sounds like he's, you know, setting the stage to some, retire soon.
Yeah.
And maybe he can transition into doing be that ambassador for the X category as his ripe old, I mean, he's 38 years old. How long could he stay on a race bike, Dave, at
yeah,
63?
I know.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I love G and his whole he's so great. His sound bites are some of my favorites. And the fact that he's, kind of couching himself as an old man and then just rolls into second place at the Giro, I mean, it's like, come on, dude. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
like, oh, he's going for the win, but he'll settle for, he goes, for what he got, right? So
yeah, yeah, no
yeah,
doubt.
Someone
at 38 years old. Yeah.
someone said that he's
No.
just we were talking about him the other day and someone said uh he's just the perception is that because I love listening to him when he's interviewed and some of his sound bites and whatnot. And someone said, he's kind of probably at that point in his career where he can pretty much just say whatever he wants to,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, versus the early guys that got to be careful and very politically correct. And here's a guy's like whatever, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the way he sounds. So
I think it's really endearing. But so is like in Italy, is there like a real what's the relationship with Colnago like? Is there like any type of dynamic there,
Um, I don't know enough history there to see what that's like. I
Hmm.
know we like our head of sales, I think, did work for Colnago for a while too. So there's some connections, no question. Yeah, I don't think there's bad will at all between the brands. It's not the Ferrari Lamborghini story, like
Right,
that.
right.
But no, I just don't know enough to answer that with any type of authority. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. I just, curious. The bike business, we're all very competitive type A's, a
And it's
lot of times.
incestuous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. And I know
Yeah.
here there's definitely like a real um, kind of contentious, certainly not amongst the people that work there, but within the companies themselves, there's always like the little bit of contention between GS and T, they're all fighting for the best dealers. And so it does tend to get
Oh,
pretty
no question.
competitive, So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
was just
in
kind of
the
curious.
yeah, and I think kind of talking the industry situation and stuff. Um, we've kind of gone through so much in the past 4 years, right? And like the brands and the consolidation and all that sort of thing. And so
Yeah.
there's and you talk about the top three, the top four brands, right? And like
Mhm.
how much of the market they own, et cetera. But you look at the growth with new dealers being added on board. I think there was a bicycle retailer article not too long ago talking about the store count and stuff, and it's actually going up. Everybody's talking doom and gloom for the bike industry, but the store count's actually going up,
Mhm.
and the bigger percentage of growth is going to the non big four than the big four, right? Because I think you've seen so much consolidation with Trek buying stores and Specialized and Pond's getting in the act too.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's now going to be a resurgence of the true indie bike shop. I think where all this consolidation happened, there's guys who've worked in those stores, and they're going to come up with their own program, right? And I think, you know, the other brands have such a huge opportunity there. I think honestly, Giant's probably in the best situation of the big four to take advantage of that too.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Listen,
so
I'm
um,
just gonna say,
uh,
I'm just gonna, Doug, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I like when I go into one of those stores, like I thought about it myself, like how would I reinvent if I was to open another shop? And you know, it was Chris Padavana, um, who owned Eden and sold the Trek, but he said, you know, people want choice, and you don't get that in the specialized store. Like when I walk in, you know, it's just I want look cleats. I don't want the Trek knockoff look cleat. I want my red or gray look cleat, right? I don't want everything to be Trek, right? I like my
yeah,
Victoria tires. Don't try to, you know. And so I think it sounds great, but I think you're right. I think that there's good, that would be my prediction, is that there's, you know, the unique opportunity for the independent retailer because they offer that choice. Here's your Pinarello, here's your other brand, make that decision, right? You know, you choose, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
I
no
and
do.
of course
question.
they're going to choose Pinarello, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, at least you give a choice.
Well, Doug, you've been traveling quite a bit. I mean, like I go into these stores and it's like I feel like let's just if you pick on our friend Padavana, right? So Padavana had this really great store, very passionate owner, and really he was a haunch he was a former road racer at a very high level, so he did bike fits, he did all this stuff, and he was, you know, very connected with the community of Castro Valley. And then he sells it, he wiped the slate clean, and now it's Trek Castro Valley. They never sold Trek, and so
Right.
all the customers, not only do they're missing the owner, the lifeblood of the store, really, the guy that was, you know, that drove the bus. He's gone, and then everything he sold is gone, and now it's replaced with this very you know, they have some cool, I give it to Trek. They do have some really cool things that they place on the wall. There's some great history. They've got, you know, Paris-Roubaix signage, and they've got some athletes doing amazing things. And so they do a nice job of decorating the walls. But as far as what's in the box to buy, it's it's very scaled down. So there's less product than when Padavana owned it, and then it's your selection is just it's not very good. You know, on the parts and accessory side, to Dave's point about the look cleats and whatnot, and that was always one of the strengths of that store because of all the things that we talked about the owner, right? So
Yep.
I just feel like, and if you just take that one example and then you just keep replicating that all over, that's kind of what they've done. They've taken these the stores that are really well run, and I haven't been to your place because I don't travel over there, but when it gets taken over by a company, a lot of times they just kind of, you lose a lot of the things that made it so great. And so yeah, it makes perfect sense that the market would be demanding a more of what they had before, you know. And but I do also see, though, like a big chunk of the market probably doesn't care about any of those things. You know, they're just there with their family. They need a bike for Billy, and he's 13. He's going to, you know, whatever, and they're just going to get him a bike, and they could care less. Oh, this place is nice and clean. People are friendly. Bikes look great. I'll take it. But it's for the hardcore enthusiasts is where there's a real drop when these stores take over, you know. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. Our old store, which Specialized, was definitely lucky enough to keep the sales manager and service manager from when we had the store, and they've,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so about half the staff maybe still there. From, you know, that they've scaled down the size of the staff too since when we had it, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's still the people, right? So there's still some of those people are there, and I think that's huge. I still go in and get my bike serviced there, etc., and get those parts to keep my kid's bike running since he's racing and breaking parts all the time. Um, but you know, but the same time, just what you're talking about, the product mix is very, you know, regimented up and down, not the broad width we had before. Obviously, the other brands have disappeared from the store. Um, the when we built the store, like we literally when we started our bike shop, it was when we signed our lease. It was I think it can't remember if the walls were even up on the concrete pad at that point. It was a
Oh,
brand new
wow.
building, etc.
Yeah.
But we, you know, we picked the paint colors on the inside, etc. And it was, you know, it was a bright, cheery place, and it's now gray walls, you know, homogenized,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
so it's a little that's a little bit heart wrenching there to see that, but the good news is the people are there, and that's a big part of it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think there is opportunities for for new shops to come into the market and grow, and it's going to be growth with, you know, I'm not going to try to call it A, B, C, you know, the B, C brands, but just brands that are other brands that aren't, you know, where they're locking you into a, you know, doing only their brand or 80% their brand, et cetera. I think there's just such good opportunity for these other brands to step up and grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I just want to elaborate. I'm backtracking, which you'll find that I do but I didn't, you mentioned when I said, what are the trends? You said road is obviously still strong, gravel, the e-bikes and whatnot, but how are you guys doing with and I think you touched on it when you were watching the championships and Pidcock came from behind. How's the mountain bike world for Pinarello?
So it's very small. So
Yeah.
that bike that Pidcock and Prevost won on at the World Championships, that just got officially launched at Sea Otter. We had the global launch at Sea Otter, which was pretty fun, and we had demos. We got the media on the bike, etc. So we actually just started delivering that bike last week. The first shipments started hitting stores. Um, Most of them, I think, are pre-sold.
Yeah.
And we took orders for them back, you know, in November. That was one of the first projects I worked on, and we sold a pretty good chunk of them. Like, I think we surprised ourselves how well they sold. But it's a very niche bike, right? We only make one, you know, bike really well. Two, we do a full suspension and a hardtail, but it's pure race, right? This bike was literally built to win podiums. You know, think about Tom Pidcock being a road racer and cyclocrosser and all this sort of thing. His passion, though, is mountain bikes. He loves racing mountain bikes,
Yeah.
and but he spends most of his time riding on the road. So part of what his checklist was, what he wanted in a bike, was he wanted something that he could go, you know, go race, you know, a grand tour, if you will. And then it's like, oh yeah, the Olympics are coming up, so I got to get back on my mountain bike. So he has like a week to get reacclimated with that bike before going and racing it on a world stage, right? So
Yeah.
he wanted something that was, you know, pretty simple kinematics, etc., that he would be easy to just glom onto and race and feel comfortable on. So
Mhm.
he loves this bike, and obviously seeing some success with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we have a full suspension bike. We've got a hardtail, um, you know, but it's an aggressive bike, no question.
Well, you know, and I could see Pinarello as like one of those brands where, like, I saw this a little bit when I repped Cannondale back in the day. Um, those Cannondale clients at the time were very captured by the brand. And it was like whatever Cannondale did, if we were gonna oh, clothing, we're doing clothing now. Oh yeah, we're doing all the can. And it was amazing. You'd meet these clients where they're dressed Cannondale head to toe. They've got 4 Cannondale bikes. They're just Cannondale, these people, you know. And I could
Yeah,
see like Pinarello has got such, you know, like you said, the 30 grand tours. You got all these people that are captured with Pinarello. They would like a lot of them wouldn't even consider a different brand road bike. Um, and so now all of a sudden, oh, there's an opportunity to get a mountain bike, or I can get an e-bike with a Pinarello? Are you kidding? I'm in, right? So it seems like you're going to have a lot of success with that mountain bike, assuming that you're going to, you have a fair amount of them. Have you gotten any indication? Like, is like with your dealer base, is it pretty much all of your, is it safe to say like most of your dealers are bringing the mountain bike in, given the opportunity? Or are there some that are just so dedicated? Because it is a really high-end road bike. So I could see it in terms of dealers that just only do road bikes, right?
Yeah,
Pinarello
no
might be in
question.
shops like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did sell a fair number to just what you're talking about, the fan, the radical Pinarello fan that's going to add that to the quiver.
Yeah.
And no question, a lot of those bikes were pre-sold to those people. Like, we had, bikes and still an embargo. We couldn't send out photos and stuff. And the dealers are calling their top customers like, hey, do you want one of these? Like, yeah, put me on the list. That sort of thing definitely happened.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, you're right. There's a lot of these road shops that don't do mountain. And so it's pretty exciting though to see where these bikes ended up. I thought, the Rockies were going to be like where we're going to sell most of these, but it's not true. Florida actually sold a fair bit. Upstate New York, Midwest did really well with the bike. And obviously there's some being sold in California and stuff. So, but they're trickling in. One of those things that's always tough is not getting them fast enough for, they're it's always a challenge not having them quick enough.
Yeah.
I have one on order for my kid who's gonna race nationals next month, and he's just crossing his fingers that bike's here in time, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny you say Florida because, you talk to the people in Florida and they try to tell you how great mountain biking is in Florida. That's hilarious to me. You know, I'm like, have you ever been outside of Florida? I'm just curious. But no, my
This is
former,
called a hill.
yes. Yeah, my former inside rep, he's repping Specialized down in Florida. And we get on the phone, he was in, he worked at Newbury Park, where anyway, so
Great mountain biking, yeah.
yeah, and so he's like, hey man, don't sleep on Florida, dude. I'm telling you, man, the mountain biking here is legit.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Okay.
okay, cowboy. I don't know. Maybe he's working with the tourism, maybe he's got a side gig as a volunteer on the tourism bureau. But yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's mountain biking in Florida. It's so weird. But that kind of gets back to your whole to my point about, having these captured this really dedicated customer base, right? Where but as an independent specialty retailer that's just staunch, I just do road bikes, right? I've been in a bunch of these shops. I love those. I mean, it's cool, right? They're just really focused on this niche. For them to bring in a mountain frame set, and then I mean, it's just a complete can of worms. I
Yeah,
mean, you can't
yeah.
be sticking your SRAM your red on a on a mountain bike or whatever they're going to do. They don't have any of the parts that they need to build this bike up, so it's that could be very challenging. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. That might force a retailer's hand though, that has historically always been road only. It's like, hey man, I got this market for these. I'm sure they're not cheap, and so he's got a market for this mountain frame. Who knows? Maybe it'll expand their offerings a little bit. They're be forced to.
Yeah.
I
I
just find
think
it. Go ahead.
go ahead, Dave.
No,
Yeah,
I just find it that because there's such a um I think there's big growth in mountain bike racing, around here. We've talked on our podcast over a podcast about the kids getting into the program and the racing scene, and now you got the whole Bentonville thing going on now. But these people that buying these bikes. They're buying bikes that are set up for a Red Bull Rampage, and then they're going and trying to erase them. You know what I mean? So I find it refreshing that you're a brand that's come with an aggressive race bike. It's just, I know, and I know Giant has the Anthem and whatnot, but and I'm fortunate that I can own multiple bikes, and some people maybe have to choose one. They only have one arrow in the quiver, but I find it refreshing. This is a race bike. It is for mountain bike racing, right? Cross country racing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do.
And as a NICA coach too, you know, so I team director, I'm one of the coaches, and like I get these middle school and high school kids who they're asking me like, hey, I can get this, you know, enduro bike. What do you think? Do you think? And I said, well, that's great. If you want to race enduro, I'd go for it. It'd be a really fun bike for you, but you're not going to have the best results in NICA if that's what you're hoping for. So you have to balance that out. And it's always like, they all want the big travel bike.
Yes.
But then they race it and go, oh. So we've had some good, you know, cyclical things where they get the big travel bike, and the next thing you know, they show up with the hardtail cross country race bike, and like, good move, guys, good move.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And so getting back to what you're talking about though, Mike, too, I think Pinarello is a brand. I think, you know, we kind of know a little bit about where we're going, and I think we've kind of gone outside our lane a few times with getting too broad. And I think the company's learned to, you know, who our core customer is, and we're not going to try to be something for everybody. So I don't think we're going to go broad on mountain bikes. You know, I think I think where we really do well is that you know, sharp end, point of the spear, competitive bike. That's where we're most successful.
Yeah, well, it helps to have the world champ rocking it, you know.
There's that, yeah. So.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, all right. Well, I'm kind of feeling like we should probably wrap it up. I know we all have jobs.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah,
and this can be that we can wrap it now, and you don't want to cover this, but I do want to, and hopefully it's not, but the how should I say this, the counterfeit market, right? And I say this because I want to give you an opportunity to because it is a knockoff. You know, there's some knockoffs out there that have your logos, and it's offensive to me, number one, as a but also too, it's a real safety issue. And you know, I've seen it when they came into our shop and there was no serial number, or someone came in with a pair of knockoff 3T handlebars that, you know, that flex so much, and it turns out so I don't know if there's, you know, words of wisdom for the buyers out there that you could impart to make sure that they do the right thing, you know.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny.
Hopefully that helps you. I don't want to be a sore spot, but it's something that I care deeply about, because I've seen some bad results.
Yeah. And honestly, so in all my career, coming to Pinarello was the first time I've ever had to deal with the counterfeit problem. And I know it exists for some of these other brands, but it has been an issue for Pinarello. We're seeing less of it now, because I think a lot of that's been getting nipped in the bud. But you know, if somebody's looking for a used or you know, third party market purchase of a Pinarello, like on eBay or some of these other sites, definitely, you know, really study that bike and look to see. You can, a lot of times you can look at it and pretty much tell, right? What I have noticed, they are putting serial number stickers on the bikes, but most of them don't have the right format. It doesn't match what our labels look like, number one, or have the same, you know, number of letters even on there, letters and numbers. One of the big key takeaways, if it does not have an Italian threaded bottom bracket, it's not a Pinarello. You know, majority of everything we've ever sold has had an Italian threaded bottom bracket. So that's one of the big key takeaways, easy ways to tell if it's a Pinarello or not. So if it doesn't have that, then guarantee it's probably a counterfeit. The exception, obviously, the mountain bike's not going to have some of those same things.
Right.
Because SRAM doesn't make one of those. Anyway, that's a good point. You can reach out to Pinarello, our help desk, if you will, and try to track that down. We can usually assist on that too. But it's less of an issue than it was. That's the good part, but it's still out there. I mean, even last week I had somebody send me photos of a bike and could tell it was a fake.
We found one in my shop, and it was simply my mechanic. He just had a sixth sense, and it didn't match any of your paint jobs. He went back,
Sure.
And it just didn't. There was no paint scheme that matched it, and it hadn't been repainted. So, I bring it up just because it's a big concern of mine. So, thank you for those tips.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen several over the years, and I haven't seen them recently. But it sounds like the one you had in your shop, Dave, was actually pretty high quality if you're having to just look at paint, but and try to find a matching. But I've seen some really shoddy examples also with the Pinarello logo on it, and it's so that was something that I think was pretty pervasive, maybe 5 to 10 years ago. And I do feel like it has, I see less and less of it. But, a lot of these no-name Taiwan, China products that are purchased online, they're problems, and they don't have the R&D or whatever that these big companies have. And I've told the story many times of this group ride I was on. This guy kept talking about these carbon wheels he bought off eBay for $350. And the wheel ended up failing on the ride, ironically. And he was riding a Scatante, which is also, it's kind of a suspect brand. And but the wheel snapped, and it grabbed his rear brake, and it broke the frame. He skid across the side of the road and went into a hillside, and his day was over. But prior to that, we were all meeting for this ride, and he's condemning anybody that would be silly enough to buy Zip or Envy wheels, because he bought his wheels for $350 off eBay. So there's like this cultural braggadocious thing that happens where everybody's so competitive about it, a lot of different aspects of life. And so everybody's trying to build their $12,000 world tour bike for $3,000, and sometimes it gets the best of us. And I'm always advocating or talking to people about, the importance of understanding where that bike's made, who made it, and, the quality that goes into that, as opposed to just buying something that has a cool name slapped on the side of it that looks just like all the other bikes.
Well, it's like what's the saying? It's like, if Huffy made a jet, would you fly on it?
So I've never used that, but I think I'm going to start using that now.
I'm stealing that one.
So, that's a good one.
But no, it's a safety thing, but it's like at some point, there is these good values out there, and it's like, oh man, that seems so great. It's like, but it's like,
right.
And even my son just got some Normatec boots, the recovery boots, right? And he was really trying to save money and stuff, and it's like, you could find some on eBay, and I said, but are they legit, number one, and two, what type of warranty you're going to get with those? That was like
a
factor, right? So, but it's like, you want that deal, but you also have to make sure backing it up with service, etc. And it's like, same thing buying your car. You want something that it's somebody's going to stand behind it.
That's right. Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, that's a good way to end it. If you want high quality Italian road bikes with 30 Grand Tour victories, you want Pinarello.
Right.
Yes.
So good looking.
All right. Well, Doug,
Thank you guys. This is, thanks for the invite to come on here. I'm kind of flattered. this is such a fun podcast. It's great to kind of go in the Wayback Machine, listening to some of your guests who I've known for years too, and
Yeah.
it's just a blast to play the catch up too. So thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it.
I love it. Yeah. Thanks so much, Doug. We appreciate the kind words, and it was great having you on. And I've known you a long time, and I learned a bunch of stuff about you that I didn't know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.